Lo le lo le lo le lo lai. Lo le lo le lo lai. Lo le lo le lo le lo lai. Lo le lo le lo lai. Ay le lo lai. Ay le lo lai. Lo le lo le lo le lo lai. Lo le lo le lo le lo lai. Con este ritmo vamos a bailar, con este ritmo vamos a gozar. When my people are presentes aquí que canta papi este.
Latinos like to Spanglish.
El Gallo and Yoshi.
Gallo, Friday night, 4 to 6 on Sabor Latino.
On the voice of San Joaquin Radio.
On Latinos like to Spanglish.
Hey, and of course you are listening to the voice of San Joaquin TVO, SJ. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody, to the debut show.
Debut
show of the Chase Car Guys. I'm a co-host. My name is Rick Pelascki, for those who do not know me. And my fellow co-host is a longtime friend.
Ooh, nice.
Mr. Roy Morales, the voice of downtown Stockton and Stockton in general. He is an advocate for Stockton. And we'll be doing this show once a month out of the beautiful station down here at TVOSJ, the voice of San Joaquin.
That's right.
Right here every month. So you get to come in. We're going to talk about all aspects of the car business. We're going to talk about business in general, how the business is, where it's going, that type of thing. We're going to talk about customer retention because we believe we do a pretty good job at it. Talk about finances and credit, service department, parts department, perception of the customer, value of vehicles, and then making sure that you, the consumer, gets the right deal. So those are things that we're going to be talking in the upcoming weeks. We're going to talk, Roy's going to go tonight, we're going to go into some history of Chase Chevrolet, a little history about Roy and I, where we've been in the car business or where we started. That type of thing. So, without any further ado, we're going to give you Mr. Stockton, California, Roy Morales.
Wow, that's huge, boy.
Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you very much. You make me feel really important here.
It won't be for long, but go
You
ahead.
know, when I think of car guys, I think of people just like me and Rick. Now, the only familiarity with car guys is my experience with Chase Chevrolet, because I had never sold a car until I went to Chase Chevrolet. So my experience is right here, because we're going to go over how long we've known each other and all that stuff. But what we thought what we would do to set the foundation for our future shows is to give you a little bit of a history of Chase Chevrolet and just a little tiny bit of the Chevrolet brand as well. So I'm going to start off, and then I'll ask Rick some questions, because he's a little bit more experienced than I. He's been at Chase Chevrolet a little bit longer than I have, so he can reach deep down in the archives and pull out some great stories. But let's start off with in 1912. 1912, the very first Chevrolet was built. And do you have any idea of what the guy's name was that built that first Chevrolet?
His last name was Ford.
His last name was Chevrolet.
It was?
Yes, it was.
Are you sure?
Exactly. I wonder why they named it after him. You know what I mean?
Hard to say. I thought it was Ford.
So anyway, and he was apparently, from what I understand, he was like a race car driver and mechanic and worked on vehicles but he was a race car driver. And so anyway, he went into business, the automobile business, and he built the first one in 1912. And then what happened was in 1915, just 3 years later, the very first Chevrolet franchise in Stockton, right here in your hometown, was established. And Mr. Rodney Bridge, I don't know if he has any family still here, or I don't know a lot about Rodney.
Well, you were around in those days.
I don't. Yeah, I can't remember that far back. But Mr. Rodney Bridge opened the very first agency on East Weber Street. And then in 1923, Mr. C.M. Menzies, Menzies, purchased the Chevrolet dealership from Rodney Bridge, 1923. His first year volume was 450 cars. It was quite an accomplishment. He built the agency into one of the largest in the United States based on the cities of similar size. So, Stockton's got some great history here. It was only 3 years. It was actually in 1923 when C.M. Menzies took over. He hit a high volume of 450 cars, which is, if my math is right, is that a little bit less than 40 cars a month?
That would be a little bit less than 40
Yeah, a little
cars.
bit less. That's pretty good, huh?
Probably
I
35,
like that.
but
I
who's
should be
counting?
working in finance, to tell you the truth.
Well, at least you would be working. But go ahead.
So anyway, so 40 cars back in 1923, and that was quite an accomplishment. And he built a good strong agency here. And then in 1935, Mr. Bert Hatch purchased the agency from Mr. Menzies. He further expanded sales at the Chevrolet corner to over 1,200 cars per year.
How much is that? Can you do
Is that
math on
100 cars a month?
You know, I'm impressed.
And that's in 1935.
Yeah. A little bit before I was born, but pretty close.
Man, that's to me that sounds like a lot of cars.
It is a lot.
There's a lot of cars that don't sell. I mean, there's a lot of dealerships that don't sell that many cars right now.
You're absolutely
And that was
correct.
back in 1935. He further before the war stopped production of the new cars. Now that's kind of an interesting fact. How the war came into play.
And all the manufacturers started doing military vehicles and equipment and that type of thing. So it's all focused on the war. at
So
that
all,
point.
all the raw materials went to the
Making tanks.
Yeah,
and trucks
yeah.
and
Interesting.
Jeeps and whatever.
And so I'm assuming, I don't know, but you can throw whatever you want to throw in here. But I'm assuming that, you know what happens when you assume. But I'm assuming that that they had to survive on service business and the business of making,
And you'd be probably surprised, and I don't know this fact. Chip, if you're listening, you probably have all the answers like you normally do.
he's our historian.
I think a lot of women worked in the factories because all the men were in the war.
Oh,
I
right,
think there was
yes.
more women doing the work than men at that time.
Right.
You people, history buffs, check me and let me know. But I believe that's true.
Exactly. So that was kind of an interesting time. I mean, you buy an agency, and you don't think about something like this affecting,
Absolutely.
your business, and they all survived and lived through it. And then in 1944, and this is our own Chase Chevrolet history. In 1944, actually, our anniversary is on February 16th, 1944. Mr. King Chase took over the reins from Mr. Hatch. King Chase represented the first generation of Chase family ownership here in Stockton. Mr. King Chase passed away in February 1974 after 30 years of active service with Chevrolet Motor Division.
Right. He was a factory guy, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got his own dealership, and this is where we're at today. Same family owns it.
Exactly. Now, the interesting thing, when I was thinking of, and I don't know this because I've never asked John about it, he would probably have a story or two, but how, you just don't run across a lot of guys that are named King.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean
that
that's
is
the
very
first.
true.
That's the first time that I've
We've
ever
called
heard
you
it.
King in the past, but I think
Well,
that was for something different. But no,
Bowling
you're right.
King.
There's not many.
Yeah.
In fact, he's the only one that I know of that
Yeah.
was named King.
Yeah, King Chase. So anyway, he was king because he was the first. Chase that actually started the franchise here under the Chase name in 1944, and then in 1946, William King Chase,
The son of King Chase.
the son of King Chase, did he go by Bill Chase?
I always knew him as Bill Chase or Mr. Chase
Bill
when I
Chase.
started.
Was the second generation that joined the company and held the position of president and general manager until 1990. You were right. We were talking about that earlier, how long he held that until 1990.
Long time. And what was he famous for, Roy? Let me see. You weren't around in those days, but what was Bill Chase famous for?
Bill Chase was probably famous for he was meticulous about his vehicles.
So you really don't know.
So I don't really know, but I'm just reaching.
He wore a bow tie every day. In fact, and John, his son, will tell you, we used to call him Billy Bowtie. But he had and it wasn't a clip-on, and it wasn't a snap-on.
Right.
He actually tied his tie every day. And I watched him do it.
Right.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's really, as the guys out there, the older guys that have done those things, I tip my hat to you. I can tie a regular tie, but not even close.
Right.
But go on with your history.
Yeah. So he wore a bow tie every day.
Every day.
Wow.
Every day. Wore a bow tie
See?
to work. And back in those days when I started, we'll get to that later, but
Yeah.
we all wore blue blazers, gray slacks, white shirt, and a blue tie.
And a blue tie. Wow.
113 degrees outside,
Yeah.
we were in that.
Yeah.
Okay?
But you look good though.
I don't know about that. Can't change
Hey,
the face.
what color bow tie? Was it always the same one?
Different.
It was different.
Yeah,
Okay.
he had. It would be interesting to find out. Maybe his son could tell us how many bow ties he had. But that it was pretty interesting. And we had a little bet one day, him and I, about tie and tie. So I untied mine. He untied his. Before I did a double Windsor knot back in those days.
Ooh, the double Windsor.
Double
Is that
Windsor.
like a swim move or?
No. It kind of you have to almost swim to do it, but it's not a swim move. But we start. I didn't get like one loop through it. Two. He was done.
Really?
I just looked at him.
Wow.
I said, "Well, we're done." I said, "That's got to be terrible." Oh no, I can do it.
And it came out perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, both sides are equal.
Well, since we're on the bow tie right now, do you know the story of the emblem? Okay, the logo of Chevrolet.
no, but I think you're going to tell me.
Oh, you don't
like that.
know.
You like how I
You're
got out of
testing
that
my
one.
knowledge, are you?
Yeah.
The
Well,
experienced
you
one is
got it
going
written
to the
down right in front of you.
inexperienced one. No, I don't. But from what I understand, I have read a little bit on this. I don't know because I've never really asked the person, about it. But from what I understand is that Mr. Chevrolet was in a what can we call it, a Motel 6 or a hotel? Probably he was in a hotel.
Okay, let's just call it that. Let's not go into that.
But he was in a hotel and he
We're
was
not going to
looking.
find out what he was doing.
He
there
was
either,
he
okay?
was thinking about branding his vehicle, the Chevrolet.
Yeah.
And I have read the story that he was looking up into the ceiling and he noticed that
That's
the
what Tracy
wallpaper.
Hang on a second. That's what Tracy Harrod does. He looks at the
He
ceiling.
looks at the ceiling.
Maybe some similarity.
Exactly.
there.
There's
Go
a
ahead.
similarity there. He may be related. So he looked up the ceiling and he saw the bow tie. It was a wallpaper that had bow ties on it. And he started thinking and looking at it, and he goes, "You know what? I like that. I think we should that should be our logo, the
Wow.
bow tie." And that's how that came about. And so it ended up being a gold bow tie. It ended up being a gold bow tie, and that's probably why Bill Chase wore the bow ties for
Could very well be.
Chevrolet.
You know
For Chevrolet.
You're pretty astute.
I've
Most of the
been
time you're not, but this time
I have
think
been
you might
to
have touched on
events. I have
something.
been to events, Chevrolet events where I've wore my gold bow tie.
Well, makes
So
sense.
Bill Chase and I had something in common, maybe in style. So anyway, interesting stories. And then in 1982. Mr. John Chase, the third generation, came to work at Chase Chevrolet,
Right.
and so he was being mentored
By his dad.
by his father to eventually
Take over.
the business.
Yeah.
And so that's where the third generation comes in. And from what I understand, John Chase started young in the business.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about maybe what you remember?
John, I can't tell some of the stories. We can't do that. But
Off the air.
he was, what do they call it? Message me or something. But anyhow, John was a young man. When I got involved with him, he was out of the service department. His dad, I think, if I get it correctly, that he started in the service department. Then he wanted him to work in every field of the business so that he'd have an idea what's going on. When I got involved with the company, he was used car manager. He was our used car manager downtown, and that's where our relationship developed. And he and I have been off and on together for 30 whatever years it is. 40 years probably, coming
Right.
up on 35, somewhere in there. And it's a funny. You see the kid go through. I call him a kid now, and he's 10 years younger than I am. But seeing him come through the business, very smart young man, very good businessman.
Yes.
Gets the right people involved in his business so he can do what he wants to do. And he is attentive to business, but we'll get into the other gentleman that we both work for a little bit later on in your thing. I don't want to break it off right
Yeah.
now, but he was the right guy because he found the right people, and we'll get into that in a minute. Just go,
Okay.
you can go ahead and.
Yeah, and that was that's kind of what I had heard. I had heard that his father had put him, started him at the most basic of jobs
Sure.
in the dealership and wanted him to learn
But
every
back
aspect.
in the day when even when I was in the car business, that's how every business
Every
was.
business
they
worked,
made
yeah.
you start at the bottom
Right.
and work your way through it.
Right.
And I think that's what we lose in today's business. And again, that's for another story. But
Right.
if you know how everything works,
Right.
then you can manage it better.
Yes.
If you have to rely on people
Right.
to do certain things that you don't know,
Right.
that's when I think you can get in trouble and lose some of the focus on what you're trying to do.
And that's what I appreciate about John is that the depth that he has of the car business, is really amazing. Because I can hear him talk about totally different aspects of the
life.
of the dealership,
Yeah,
life in a dealership, and he is like right on point on every single one. It was like he learned every job, he learned everything about it, and now he knows the entire operation.
Yeah.
And that amazes me.
Yeah. There's a picture of whoever might come to our store at some point in your life. There's a picture of him going through dealer son school. And he looks like he's about 12 years old.
Yeah, he does.
But anyhow, a good picture, and the kid earned everything he did. And I just want to make one point while it's in my head that a lot of people think he was given that dealership. He had the opportunity to get it, but he paid for it, and that was between him and his dad. None of anybody's
Right.
business what happened. But he did not, just because he was the heir apparent, get it.
Right.
And the kids earned every dime that man has today. But go
Oh,
ahead.
that's and you know what? That's the way to do it. You got to earn it, and then you really appreciate it. So anyway, John got involved in 1982, and he was and growing through the business. And then in 1989, John Ferriolo joined Chase Chevrolet as the general sales manager. And you remember this because you were with Chase Chevrolet at the time. This was a big step for John, huh? John Ferriolo.
It was a big step. I mean, John had been, and he'll correct me tomorrow probably. He was with Stockton Nissan for, I'm going to just say 15 years or 20 years. He started in the business as a young man, probably in high school age, I'm guessing. His dad had a local used car,
Right.
a house of hardtops in Lodi, California, and that's where John started washing cars for his dad, and then learned how to sell cars and so on and so forth. So he's been doing it, I can't tell you, 40 plus years.
Right.
Very intelligent man. People ask me, and I've been around the guy for a lot of years, but he's a type of person that he makes things happen for the good, and very dedicated to the business. And he inspired his aspirations of become an owner.
Right.
When he first, I don't know when it was, but somewhere in the beginning of his career, that's what he wanted. And he was able to do that with Chase Chevrolet. But so it's been a good union, and that's where I go back to John Chase, knowing that this is the guy to get.
Right.
He was the caveat that made this big machine run.
Right.
And he took it from around 100 cars a month. When I was there, when he came, we were around 100, maybe a little less or a little bit more, but 100 was the number. And he grew it into what it is today. And we do, in the good times, and you're going to talk about it, we did over 500 cars in a month. And it's just I call it whatever happened in 08, whatever you want to deem what happened in
Right.
08. He brought it back. It was a trying time for everybody, but they persevered. And so good for them. And they're a good team together.
One of the stories that I heard, and John will probably tell me whether I was right or wrong on this one,
you're
but
wrong.
one of the stories that I heard was that John Chase was looking for a general sales manager, and he went to Harry Momai, who's passed away, and long-time car business guy, someone that is honest and trustworthy, and he worked at Chase Chevrolet until he passed
in the
away.
60s. Well, he started there as a salesman,
Yes.
and then he branched off and did his own thing, Harry's Used Cars. A lot of people know Harry. Greatest individual, give you the shirt off his back.
Right.
They just one of the good guys, you know.
Yes.
And I heard that story too, that they got him together. John had left the Stockton Nissan and went to work Turner Nissan, I want to say it is, up towards Roseville, that area. And that's a hell of a commute from Stockton every day. And
Right.
John Chase reached out to him, or Bill Chase, I don't know which one, but both of them probably. And then that's how John came back.
Yeah, because the story that I heard, and I mean, I'm just telling you what I heard, but I had heard that John Chase had spoke to Harry, and Harry made a recommendation.
Yeah.
And the recommendation was John Friel is your guy.
Yeah.
And he took that, and he ran with that, and then John came on board.
And I remember that in 1989.
1989, exactly. And then John handles the operation side, the everyday.
He's there every day. Yes.
Every day he handles the operation side, the nuts and bolts of what makes this machine work, and just one dedicated guy,
Absolutely.
to the business. Amazing guy, actually.
Very amazing guy. I mean, the guy's there every day. He's there at 7:50 in the morning. Goes home at 5. He doesn't take a lunch. He's there. He's part of the business on a daily basis. The old guys have been. I'm one of the old guys too. They've been around him for all these years, and it's a pleasure to have a guy like that aboard. And he's a salesman's manager.
Exactly.
He worries. That's probably one of the. That's going to sidetrack us a little bit from.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
He was one of the first guys that I got around that was an advocate for the salesman, because when I started, the whole car business was a lot different, and it's been changes throughout all the time I've been around it, and it's changing again. And he seems to be ahead of the curve. He figures out where it's going, and we dictate it. Now, there's other stores out here. I'm not going to mention names. The old timers will know.
Right.
But there's stores that don't care about the salesman. And John, when he came aboard, and Chase didn't care for the salesman, but that wasn't their top priority when I started. They were a very good company. I don't want to take that away from you, but it was a different era, different time.
Right.
Managers made all the money. Salesmen were the grunts.
Right.
But John said, without these guys, you got nothing.
Exactly.
We can spend $1 million in advertising, and if they come across the curb and these guys are, not very sharp,
Right.
we're wasting money.
Right.
And if we treat them like crap, they have no loyalty to us.
Yeah.
So he has perpetuated
Right.
the goodness out of it. And he was a salesman that got beat up a lot when he was selling cars.
Right.
He tells I'll tell a quick story that he told me. He says, this sales manager, we're going to leave him nameless.
Yeah.
If the first deal was a $4,000 profitable deal, there wasn't another deal that day. If it wasn't $4,000, you go pump sand, go somewhere else and buy a car, because we're not selling your car. I can't go less than what I started.
Right.
That was the thinking.
Right. Back in the day,
in the 70s, 60s, and
Right.
70s. But as the business has progressed, John is always taking care of the salesman. Sometimes maybe too much, but he'd rather be on that side of the pendulum than the other side, because those are the frontline guys. Those are the guys that are out there every day promoting your business, number one. And if you make them make sense of the business, they're going to work for you harder.
Right.
And I think that's the
Right.
atmosphere
And it's always evident. I mean, the thing that's most evident with John is that he's a salesman.
Yeah.
He's a true salesman, and he is a student of sales.
Right.
And so
he knows how not to treat a salesman,
Right.
and how not to treat a customer.
Exactly.
And the whole store gets that concept.
Yeah.
Again, we can put a lot of what I got to say about customer retention, but
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll let you.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to, let people know a little bit about John. You know, he handles all the operations side, and they mesh together. Both John Chase and
Right.
John Ferriolo. You know, they may not agree on everything, but they
Not
work
really.
things.
They don't agree on too many things, but
Yeah,
it works.
But it works because they listen to one another and they work together and they come up with a solution that is best for the company, and that's why we have been so successful. In 1994, July 23rd, 1994, Chase Chevrolet moved its entire operation to its new home in North Stockton, located at 6441 Holman Road. Chase Chevrolet is one of the largest of its kind in Northern California, the new dealership, one of the most modern and well-equipped on the West Coast. You remember some of that move?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you were involved.
I was part of that. move.
94.
They, first of all, go back a little bit of history about the building we came out of.
Mm-hmm.
It's still here in Stockton. It's at the corner of Hunter and Minor.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that old building.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stories to tell about that old building. Some of them not up for radio or consumption, but that's a drink afterwards. But that store is still there, and it's being run by the Cancun restaurant
Right.
now. They used to be across the street where the theater is. But anyhow, that was our showroom.
Right.
Across the street is, I want to say Enterprises there now.
Right. Enterprise is there.
That was our used car lot.
Right.
And then to the north of us, there's a lot that they had rented
Right.
for the truck lot. And then the following corner is Tio Pepe's there. But anyhow, so that kind of gives you a layout of the
Right.
property. Now, back in those days, the shop was located on Madison Street, which now sits the Stockton Arena.
Oh,
That's where
okay.
our shop was.
Right.
So it was off of Fremont Street down, Fremont and Madison.
Right.
And then if you go further west on that same street, that was the body shop. And right now
Wow.
it's home of the Stockton Ports.
Wow.
That was our body shop and our get ready. That's where the cars came from the factory
Right.
there. And they were pre-delivery inspection,
Right.
which we call PDI.
Yeah.
And a man named Pat McDonald ran that like a
Right.
military sergeant. And anyhow, that's where the cars came in, and they got their stock numbers and so on and so
Yeah.
forth, cleaned up, ready to go. And then we brought them over to the Minor and Hunter location.
Right.
One thing about that store that most people don't know, and I challenge you, if you listen to this, to go to the Cancun. Just don't go in there to look at the stairwell, but go in there, obviously have lunch or dinner. But that stairwell that goes up, it's still there, is freestanding. You would think by looking at it that it's attached to the top floor. If you look closely, it is not attached. It was a state-of-the-art stairwell that Bill
Really?
Chase wanted in that building. The way I understood it, maybe it was King, but I think it was Bill. And that's freestanding. It's a metal. It's all on metal. But whatever they use, obviously, and it withstand the earthquake in '89, I believe.
Oh, yeah, 89, right.
Yeah, the A's and Giants,
yeah.
right? So I was in that very building when that earthquake hit. And everything else was shaking. The windows, the doors, everything. The windows were bowing in and out.
Wow.
And we all ran out of the building. But that, again, I'm getting off the subject.
Yeah.
But that building has a lot of history in it.
Right.
We knew when it rained. The guys who were there would fill up buckets of water.
Yeah.
It was time. It was time to make the move. in
One
94.
of the things that I've always heard from a lot of the customers that bought on Minor there is that they remember driving their car off the showroom floor.
Right. We had a delivery area. Right. The car would come in. It had a big roll-up door. That's how you delivered the car.
Okay.
You back it in, or mostly we backed them in, and then they would get in the car. You go over a few features, and off they go. And we used to do calendars. Take a picture,
Right.
had a camera. It was pretty cool. And people always talk. The people that remember all that, when they come back in our store, they say, "Oh, we remember the calendars and all
Right.
that stuff." So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good history.
So I mean, because the operation was spread out all over the place,
Yeah.
and they moved north, right? They find, I don't know how many acres we're on. Do you know?
I want to say 12, but I
About
could
12,
be wrong.
yeah,
I
12,
think-
14 acres, something like that. It's pretty big. But now we join all of the departments together.
Correct. Everything but a body shop. Body shop
Right.
never came
They
out.
eliminated body shop at that time.
because of a lot of reasons, you know.
So what was the move like, man?
Wow. It was good and sad at the same time.
Yeah.
Because some of us had been at that building
Yeah.
for 7-8 years or so.
Yeah.
Actually, I was there for, now that I'm thinking about it, over 10 years in
Yeah.
that building. And now we're giving up our home.
Right.
But it was time. At that time, once it turned dark downtown, nobody came
Right,
down there unless
right.
you had an appointment. So there was really, the business at night was nothing. We
Yeah.
do a lot of business during the day and Saturday and Sunday,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
But so they decided to make the move. Now here's the exciting part, or you talked about Chase and how ahead of the game he is. So the auto center was there,
Right.
and it's still there today. Same buildings are there, different people are
Right.
in them. But he didn't like that because it wasn't, you had to turn in there, right?
Right.
So a lot of people drove by it.
Right.
So he thought, and by that time it was established, he would have had to build way in the back.
Right.
So he'd have been off the main thoroughfare. So he says, you know what? This property's for sale right here, where we are today. It's
Right.
6441 Holman Road.
Right.
And that's where he said, this is better because we can be seeing from the street.
Right.
And back in those days, there was a Walmart across the street.
Right.
It wasn't where it is today.
Right.
It was across the
The
street.
old Walmart, yeah.
The old Walmart. And so that was his decision to build there because we had street front
Traffic.
presence.
Yes.
And there was dues to be paid and all that type of thing
Yeah.
because you had to be part of the auto center
Okay. Yeah.
association.
Yeah.
And he was smart enough to say, well, why do I need that? What are they going to do for me?
Right.
A lot of dealers bought into the concept because back in those days, they were building auto malls.
Right.
That was the new in thing to do.
Right.
And Chase took a chance that his idea was better. And today we're there still. The building looks like it's brand new because there's people always painting it and resurfacing it. And the store is, how many years old are we? I'm trying to think. What is that?
Well, we moved in there in
2004,
94. 20-something years.
25 years.
24, 25 years.
25 years
Yeah.
we've been there, and the store looks like it's
Yeah.
brand new.
Right. Well, we went through one upgrade, one remodel.
Right.
We went through one remodel, to the prototype, the new
to stay
prototype.
with the Chevrolet concept.
Stay with the Chevrolet concept.
Yeah.
But the one thing about John is not only is he a terrific businessman, but he's meticulous about his property.
Absolutely.
He's always investing money into his property to keep it, at the highest level.
Right.
And he'll find little things, just little things.
Yeah, if you want to really irritate him, find a chip in his tile.
yeah,
Yeah,
that'll get taken care of the next day.
Out there that night fixing it, but yeah.
But
that's
you
good.
know him thinking beyond going inside the auto mall. I mean that I don't know how many millions of dollars it made him, but I mean think about it now. The traffic that we get on Holman Road is
unbelievable.
like Hammer Lane.
Yeah.
Because there's only one way to get to March Lane on that side of town, March
Right.
Lane to Hammer Lane.
Right.
You got to go by Chase Chevrolet.
You got to remember when we moved out there was nothing out there.
Right.
That everything was field from the end of our property on the, I want to say south side,
Right.
all the way. There was no March Lane there. March
Right.
Lane stopped at West Lane or down that
Okay,
way.
okay, I see what you're saying.
That was all dirt there.
Right.
There was no Chavez High School.
Right.
There was nothing. There was no homes there.
Right.
So it was a gamble he took,
Yeah.
but it paid off.
Yeah.
That's the talent that the kid had. He saw the future,
Right.
and made the right decision.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful home, beautiful place to work.
Oh, absolutely.
And I like the fact, what I like?
What do you
It's the
like,
simple things, especially for the salespeople,
Yeah.
is that the way that they designed the building and the way that it faces,
Mm-hmm.
when it gets super hot, I mean, you have shade off the building because of the way that it sits.
Right. And you can block yourself from the wind normally if it's one of those.
Yeah. So just the way that it all came together is is absolutely amazing. And then just a couple of quick notes as we were talking about the history. Since 1935, beginning with Mr. Menzies, who was justly proud of the 450 cars sold in his first year, to our record years in 1965, in which Chase Chevrolet sold a total of 3,798 new cars and 3,029 used cars, a total of 6,107 vehicles. Our growth and progress has been the source of great pride to all of us. For 5 consecutive years, 56 to 60, we were the Oakland zone's largest volume Chevrolet dealership. We employ, just to let you know, we employ about 125 employees, and then we had one banner year, I believe it was either 2006, 2007, where we actually had a month, and you may have remembered this. I think you were there when it happened. We sold, I know it was well over 500 cars, close to 600 cars in 1 month.
Yeah, that's big numbers. That was but it goes into customer retention, and there's a lot of things that go into that.
Right.
And
people were buying cars.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
It was a good time. That was prior to 08 was a good time, and we've come out of 08 pretty good.
Yes.
08, 09
Right.
were kind of soft years, but it
Right.
was soft for everybody. With the housing market and all
Right.
the other stuff that was going on back in those days. But Chase provided. He was smart enough to understand I can't do what I was doing.
Right.
So he took steps before that. He
Right.
saw the future coming.
Right.
And he cut back everywhere he could possibly cut back, keep as many employees employed to get us through that stretch of
Right.
hard times.
And you know what? When you think about that, because we've all been there. I mean, if you're selling cars, come on, and you're in the car business, they're going to have some ups and downs. But it's about what you learn from it, and how you recover from it. That makes a difference. And so, I've been with Chase Chevrolet for 18 years. You've been with them much longer than that. But I always know that when we hit a bump in the road, that we're going to survive.
Right.
And we're gonna survive it, and we're gonna thrive through it. At some point.
The biggest thing I remember going through all of my career there, we didn't let any of the outside, all this media stuff that's
Right.
going on, like right now today, and I'm not going to get into that because it's too political, but
Right.
We didn't get involved in it. We were there for the first Desert Storm,
Right.
and that was all business is going to turn down, this
Right.
and that. And we went to work every day and shut all that off.
Right.
We're here to sell cars.
Right.
You're coming across to buy a car, and we didn't buy into the
Right. Yeah. Buy into it.
we didn't buy into the propaganda
Right.
and what was going on in real life. We came through that. We left our stuff at the curb, and we walked across the curb and did our jobs. And we were pretty successful through all those times.
Right.
Was it a little slower? Yes.
Yeah.
But we made the best of what we had, and that's why they're still in business.
Yeah. And then I know that you worked with many of the guys down on Minor Street, and you know what, they were the guys. They were the foundation of us getting there. No matter how they did the business or whatever, they were a foundation for us to getting to where we are today.
Yeah.
Tell us about a few personalities. Because those are the old stories that are rich.
Great story, and on our Facebook page. I just got a note in here from Sandy Parks, who's the daughter of Everett Parks,
Right.
who was a legend in the business. I think his sales number, and John will remember, but I think it was like 102, and now we're in the 70,000 number range.
Right.
And here's this guy that, he started selling cars before they had licenses to sell cars. But anyhow, here's this guy Everett Parks, greatest guy in the world, everybody's friend. We used to call him Edgy because he didn't have patience for too many things. Kind of like me now,
Yeah.
but worse.
Oh my God! Wow!
But he was something. A quick story. I can tell you many stories about Everett, but he went to John Ferriola, so this was after '89, obviously. And Everett was, when they sold cars in the '60s and '70s, their profit margin was nothing. I mean, they would, whatever they owned a car for, a couple $300 over, and they were selling cars, right? So that's how he was trained. That doesn't make him a bad guy,
Right.
but that's how he was trained.
Right.
So that's how he was. So he finally went to John, and John can tell the story better than I, but he tells John, it was like the New Year, right? He walks up to him and says, okay, okay, I want to make money this year. He says, I'm tired of doing it my way. And John said, if you'll just follow my pencil, I'll make you money. He said, okay. So the first deal John gets, and I don't know who the customer, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
So he, back in those days, we got $100 mini. That was it.
Right.
If you sold the car, you were going to make 100.
Right.
And that's what Everett did most of the time.
Right.
So I think he got, and I don't remember what the commission is, but it was triple that or
Right.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he looked at his commission statement. He went to John. He goes, I know what I told you, but let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy.
I made too much money.
Yeah. He says, but they worried about the customer perception.
Right.
That's another
Yeah.
thing we're going to get into.
Right.
But he was a legend, good friend of mine. We used to, he would be, here, I'll give you a sample of how short-tempered he was. So he was in the used cars. He was over there with guys like John L. Jones, Don Takahashi. The older guys wanted to use cars because they could make a little more money than we did in used, so that's where they were. But anyhow, he would come out. There was 3 steps. 3 steps. He used to do the Toyota jump. You know how they used to jump and kick their feet to the side?
Yeah.
So Everett was all spry this day, and he went to the doctor, and they told him he was in good shape. So he comes down the steps, and he jumps a little jump and clicks his heels together. And he goes out, and he's with these people maybe 30, 35 seconds, 40 seconds, stops. And he comes back and goes, somebody go out and talk to those people. I can't talk to them. I went out, I said hello to them, they didn't say hello back. I said hello to them, they didn't say hello back. I can't handle people like that. Somebody go talk to these people. That's how Everett Parks was.
Turn.
Yeah, turn. Anyhow, but Everett, good guy. We lost him, I can't even tell you, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Whenever it was at. I was there for him.
He was always he always looked to me because I knew him later on in life, after he had sold cars. But he was always a sharp dresser.
He was always.
always pretty sharp. He looked sharp.
Like a swirl, like
you got a little swirl. Yeah. I kind of like that. That was good.
Maybe you're gonna do Everett Parks. But Everett was there. John L. Jones. When you first start selling cars, as you know.
Yeah.
You're a little, everybody says the customer's intimidated. Some of these salesmen, I'm pretty outgoing now, but when I first started selling cars, it was, I was young in those days.
Right.
That was a long time ago. I was 29 when I started.
Yeah.
And so there's a little fear factor.
Yeah.
You're approaching people in their 50s and 40s, and I mean, here you are, a snot-nosed kid.
Right.
And so you had to, I was always not intimidated, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't go
while we're there, why don't you tell us, how did you get into the car business?
Oh, that's a long story. But actually, I was in the security and police field prior to 83 when I went to Chase. So anyhow, my last job before, I'm not going to go back in history.
Yeah, that's fine.
I came to this town. I'll tell you this. I came here in 1976.
Right.
I've been here ever since. So that's a long time.
Right.
More than half my life I've lived here in Stockton.
Right.
So I finished up with American Savings. They had a big cut layoffs. They gave us a pretty nice severance package for the dummies like me that got axed at that time. And I used to hang out at Tabucci's uniform shop on Market and Hunter.
Right.
Market and Sutter.
Sutter, yeah.
And became good friends with those guys in there. Juna Gary and Mark Tabucci and his dad. And anyhow, they said, you should become a salesman. And this is while I was still working for American Savings.
Right.
And I said, I don't know. He said, no, you're good. You're good with people, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow, when I got laid off or cut or whatever you want to say it, I said, you know what? I'm tired of this police type crap.
Right.
It was low paying. Risk factor isn't what it is today, but it was not good.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Maybe somebody's telling me to change careers. So anyhow, Chase Chevrolet was well known in those days. So I walk in there, and I said, I'm looking for a job. You got any sales open? And Lawton Verger. He was the
What was his name?
Lawton Verger.
Lawton
Verger and his wife Joanne.
Wow.
And they had a daughter. John Chase could tell me her name tomorrow, but I don't remember. But anyhow, so I take this test, and Lawton says, and he had a southern drawl, talk like this. He said, well, Rick, he said, well, you take this test. It's just going to tell us about your personality. And that doesn't mean there's no right or wrong answers. Just fill out the answers honestly, and I'll see how you fit on the chart. So I didn't know. I had nothing to lose, so I filled it out.
Yeah.
He goes, well, I kind of like what I see. You're persistent, and you like people. So I think I'm going to take a chance on you.
Wow.
So he said, I'm going to hire you. Well, here I am. I don't know anything about the car business. Well, back in those days, we had training. And
Really? Training back in those days? Whoa.
Joanne Verger was our teacher.
Oh, okay.
Trainer. She ended up, later on in life, she became the mayor of Coos Bay, Oregon. But that's
Coos Bay.
Yeah, Coos Bay. Up.
Wow.
That's where they were from. But anyhow, so I go up in this room. For those not downtown, I was up in the upstairs room for a week or 2 weeks.
Right.
And I saw this guy, and I begged people to look on the internet because I'm sure his videos are still out there. Clint McGee.
Clint McGee. Look that one up. That's an oldie but goodie.
He was a sales trainer. And this guy had a southern drawl, and he'd talk about going out to people's house. If they didn't buy the car, go knock on their door at night and have a drink with them and discuss the car business and all this type of thing.
Yeah.
And this went on, and didn't really talk to you about the stuff about the car itself, but how to do a deal and this type of thing.
Right.
So anyhow, I get done. Finally, I graduated, I guess.
Yeah.
Never got a diploma, but I graduated. But anyhow, so she says, okay, I'm going to take you down, and now you're going to learn how to do a demo drive. Okay, I don't know a demo drive from anything.
Right.
So I go downstairs, and they introduced me to this old guy, he's probably older than I am now, but pretty close.
Yeah.
His name was Angelo Prado.
Prado.
And he's upstairs looking down, probably laughing right now.
Right.
So he tells me, so, okay, kid, let's go out. And he was driving a demo.
Yeah.
I think it was an El Camino. So we go out, and he goes, get in the car, and he gets in the passenger or driver's seat, and he goes, so you've been in training for 2 weeks. And I go, uh-oh, he's going to ask me a question. I don't know. I don't know what the hell he's going to ask me. And I'm kind of like, oh, man, don't ask me something I don't know.
Yeah.
Which is probably everything they taught me.
Right.
So he says, you were in there for 2 weeks. Now, here's what I want you to do. You see what this is right here? And he held up a pen.
Yeah.
He said, you just make sure you have one of these every day that you come to work. And write everything the customer wants on a paper and bring it to me. He says, all that other stuff, forget it. If I catch you going out to a customer's house after dark in this town,
yeah,
I'll shoot you. That's what he said. So that's how I started the car business, and way back in February of '83, I believe is what it was. And so that's how I got started in the car business. And
well, let me ask you this. Now we know how you got started. You've stayed in the business.
I never left the business. I left Chase from 03 to 08.
Right.
For a short time, 5 years. Excuse me. And worked for another agency. They're no longer in business. But I was a closer. I closed that store too.
Did you? Oh, you got a taste of everything,
I closed
huh?
the whole store. No, I was gone before they closed. But anyhow, but I've been in the car business all that time.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never left the business. A lot. I could tell you. We could spend 2 hours with me talking.
Right,
and
right. No, I hear you.
wants to listen to me.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because of how people get in the car business, and typically they don't know a lot about the car business, and then they get thrown into it, and then what happens as a result of that. In my case, I had I had been in the wholesale grocery business, and I had 3 salespeople that I supervised with a company called Cormark International, and then before that, I was in the convenience store business.
I thought you were in the insurance business.
And
too.
wait a minute, I was getting to that point.
Okay.
So anyway, I hit this point in my life about 40 years old, and we're running out of time. So anyway, I hit this point in my life at about 40 years old, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm in this middle management position, and it's all about heat. I got to deal with heat every day. You
dealt with heat.
Just relax. I know that's a tough one. So and I'm going, man. I'm going to save an account here because their delivery got screwed up or whatever. and it just wore on me, you know. And I was having to drive a lot, and I'm a lousy driver. I mean, I'll fall asleep at the, you know, as soon as you get in the car. So that's not a good thing.
That's a story in itself.
So anyway, I said, you know what? I'm going to focus. You know, I don't have my degree either. You know,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I go. I'm going to try to focus on sales and customer service. You know what I mean? And so anyway, I said, well, I started looking around. So I ended up getting in the insurance business, right?
Right.
And so I kind of
Can
started.
you name the business? Because I think I remember the name.
Banker's Life was one of them.
And then what was the last one?
The
pyramid one.
Oh,
Wasn't there a pyramid one you were
no,
involved
I
with?
don't think so.
Where,
No,
anyhow,
no,
that's-
I wasn't. No, and then there was
were at the
another
bottom
company,
of the
G
pyramid.
Capital Assurance, also. But it was a different kind of selling, you know, because you're going out to the house and all that, so it's a little bit different. And so I did that for about 2 years. I mean, all my credit cards, everything. I mean, it maxed out. I was trying to figure out where I'm going to go, you know, what I'm going to do. And so a buddy of mine that was in the car business,
And who was that?
Jose Vega.
Jose Vega.
You know Jose Vega. Anyway, Jose Vega, who was a friend of mine, told me, Roy, you need to get in the car business, man. He goes, it's a good business. And I go, man, I just couldn't see myself being
Because of the perception of the car
exactly,
guy.
yeah, exactly. You know, and so anyway, he goes, and I go, well, I don't know, you know, I'm not sure. And I had another friend of mine said, yeah, you should go in the car business. So I'm looking through the newspaper one day, and all of a sudden there's an ad for Chase Chevrolet looking for a car salesperson.
That was our mistake. But go ahead.
Exactly. It shouldn't have put it on that day. 18 years later.
Yeah.
So anyway, I called my buddy Joe, and I go, hey, Joe, you know, they've got an opening over here at Chase Chevrolet, you know. What do you think? He goes, I want you to get your butt down there right now, and I want you to apply for that position. That is the best place to work. That's what he told me.
And where was he? What dealership?
He was actually a general sales manager at a little smaller place, but he said that's a place where you should go. And so anyway, I went there. I got hired. I don't know why, but it was a whole new environment for me.
Oh, boy.
I mean, selling cars is a whole new environment, and most people don't understand what we do, you know.
Exactly.
But it took me about 6 months of just to hanging in there to getting to a point where I finally bought in, and the one thing that I fell in love with, not only Chase Chevrolet because they treat their people right, okay, is I really fell in love with the business work environment. The business work environment to me is just so important. I mean, you know, my job is to go out and sell a car. You know, that's what my job is.
You do remember that.
I do remember
Okay,
that.
good.
I do some other things now, but my job was to simply go out and sell a car and assure that we give good customer service and all of that. You know, that was my job. There was really very little heat. You know, like I was used to.
Oh yeah.
You know,
that would be all different.
And
yeah.
then you're working at it's almost like a country club environment. Of course, you know I'm a golfer, right? It's like working at a country club environment and just going out and selling cars. And you know what? To me, the work environment is what has kept me there. And I work for a great employer, you know, and that's a big part of it too.
Oh.
But the work environment that we have is absolutely amazing.
Right.
And that's why I love Chase Chevrolet, and that's why I've been there for 18 years. And, you know, I used to be a really good salesman. Now I'm out in the community a lot. But I try to do that as best as I can too. But it's kind of interesting how we get into the business.
Yeah, it really is, and then the longevity. Even we all have fun with you, but
Right.
18 years at any place. A lot of people that come in, and I see
Yeah.
quite a few people because I'm in finance now, so I do a lot of the paperwork. So I get to meet a lot of different people.
Right.
And when they find out how long people have been around, that's unusual.
Very.
Especially in the car business, but in life in general.
Right.
Unless you work for a government agency or a state agency or that type of thing where there's a big pension at the end of the line or
Right.
whatever, you don't see a lot of people,
Right.
you know, anything over 5 years, I think, is a long time at a place, you know, because everybody thinks the grass is greener somewhere else.
Right.
And it's not.
Right.
You have to make the difference.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's interesting.
What else are we going to touch on tonight? Because we're getting down to we got about 4 or 5 minutes.
We're getting
left.
down to the nitty-gritty.
We're getting down to gift.
But you know
time.
what? You know what we've been able to do today is
Yeah.
we've been able to set a little bit of a foundation, a little bit of a foundation
Right. So
about
you know
yourself
who-
and
yeah,
me,
right, and the
being in the car
dealership.
business, Chase Chevrolet's history.
We want people. If you look at the Facebook page, we put our phone numbers out. I put Roy's out myself. If you want to give us a text or call us or whatever and have questions
Right.
about the car business in
Yeah.
general, whether you think it's important or not, we'll talk about them on the air. We'll get you involved. We found out that we can take calls now on the show, and there's a way to do that. So reach out to us if you want to email me. If you don't want to talk to me, and I understand a lot of people don't want to talk to me, and I get that. So if you just want to email, mine's rick@chasechevrolet.com. Pretty simple. What's your email?
Roy@chasechevrolet.com. Simpler.
And we work with a group of good people.
Yeah, we do.
Every day. The car community is like a family. Whether you work at Chase Chevrolet or you did work at Chase Chevrolet, everybody, we don't touch base on a daily basis, but everybody knows the people that pass through your lives that mean something to you. You're always there, and you know where they're at. And it's like it's good times because that's how it is.
It's such a special place, and we'll talk more about it on future shows. But I just want to tell you this: you're doing the right thing when you have customers that come to the dealership to visit you and not want to buy a car.
Right.
I mean, there's so many customers
Right.
that just come in, have a cup of coffee, and they know everybody.
Right.
They know our sales manager, Tim Moser. They know John Friel, John Chase. I mean, they come in because they feel like it's a family.
Right.
And that's what makes Chase Chevrolet so different
Right.
than most other dealerships.
Right. And and one of the topics, we're going to talk about customer retention. I can tell you several
of
stories
stories,
about
yeah.
how we took care of customers when they really had nothing coming. But that's the difference. That's the difference of our company than other companies out there. There's a lot of good companies. I'm not putting
Yeah.
anybody down,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the way they run business is a business thing. We are a little bit more sensitive than that. We understand people go through trying times. We understand that things happen in life, and we're not there. We're there. Obviously, we're there to make money. That's number one,
Right.
because we have to keep the lights on and all of us employed.
Right.
However, the goal is to make sure you're happy,
Right.
and that you want to come back.
Yes.
Our business is,
Probably 75%.
I was going to say 75 to 80%
Yeah,
repeat
repeat and
business
referral.
or referral business. The
Yeah.
people refer them. We had a customer in today that was referred by a longtime customer, and like I said, I'm the last one to see them, and most of these people are pretty happy when they leave. You
Yeah.
know, they say it was a great experience.
Right.
We don't browbeat people.
Right.
We don't, if you're there to buy a car, and we can make a little bit of money, we're going to sell that car.
Just
We're
being
not,
fair. It's just being fair to the customer
Right.
and making sure that he's happy with the deal. We're happy with the deal, and
Yep.
and everybody's happy.
That's the main thing. And
It's a happy show.
well, Roy wants us to do point counterpoint. I mean, I don't know that
Oh,
we'll
I
ever
love-
get to
I
that
love
point, but
point, counterpoint.
we could. I'm getting close. I bet he's not in here, so I'm going to step out over
You're
here
gonna step out?
to get your gift.
You're gonna leave me by myself?
Oh no, I'm
What's
not.
a- what do you mean a gift? You got a gift for
I
me?
got a gift for you.
Okay,
Let
bring
me-
it out real quick.
Go ahead.
Bring it out. I want
talking.
to.
Keep
Hey,
talking.
I want to thank you for tuning in today to our inaugural Car Guys show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little bit about the history of Chase Chevrolet. Learned a little bit about us, your hosts, and we're looking forward to having you tune in on our next program.
And so this is what everybody's been waiting for.
Everybody's been waiting for this.
I got this specially made for Roy.
Oh, let me see. What does it say on it?
We call him the Mooch
Oh my gosh!
because he is always looking for something for nothing, and that's my guy Roy.
Oh.
And so this is his license plate, Mia Mooch,
Me
and
Mooch,
I
I
do.
get to
We
put
do
that on
this.
my car?
Well, I don't know if you want to put it on your car or not, but I want to hand this to you because it's something that I worked hard to get for you, and
Well, give that to me. Look at that. Look at how nice my partner is. The other part of the Car Guys. Okay, well, I got something for you real quick too. I want to say, first of all, because we got Mother's Day coming up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Mother's Day's coming
May
up.
12th,
In
yeah.
many ways, you remind me of my mother. Okay, so I just want
she
to,
beat the hell out of you? What happened?
I want to show, yeah, because she'd always correct me, knock me on the head, tell me what I'm doing wrong. But anyway, what I want to do is because you're my friend, every mother.
Oh, here we go.
Every mother.
Betty, be careful. We might have to.
Every
Oh,
mother
listen.
loves roses. So I got you roses. Thanks, Mom. It's been a pleasure working with you on our inaugural show.
And look, where did you steal these from, Roy?
They're
These
from
are
my
broke.
garden.
Oh,
It needs water.
they're fantastic.
Look at that.
Thank
huh?
you so much.
It's a little
What a
water.
team.
We'll be back on the.
Soon.
We'll be back next month. Hang on a second. I'm going to give you the date.
Let's get
Hang
the
on.
date.
So let's
Can you give
stand
us
by
the date?
one.
Can
We
we
got to
put a
hurry up.
date on that?
We're
Can we
running out of time.
follow up?
Betty, you got anything for us? Betty's
Yeah,
a
I
wonderful
got
person. Betty Ramirez, right, Betty?
Mother's Day is coming up.
Mother's
so
Day is coming
definitely
up.
treat your mother well. Take her out to dinner.
So it'll be
Wine
June.
and diner. Make her happy. Take her to the movies. Buy her a diamond ring.
Absolutely, or a Chevrolet, whatever she wants. But
Or a Chevrolet.
We'll be back on June 6th, a day after my birthday. I'll be 65 years old the next time you see me. Quick shout out to the Lions Club.
Lons All-Star football game,
Yeah.
June 15th, Lincoln High School. Alumni night. Want everybody out there.
Hey,
Gotta
thanks
support.
everybody. Thank you for Chase Chevrolet, and hopefully we'll get some good questions. We're not going to. It's not all pro Chase. It's about the car business. So if you have something, even at another dealership, maybe we can address how you can handle it. We'll talk about stuff on our next show. I got nothing
Chase
else.
Chevrolet. And
So-
we're going to end on this note. Chase Chevrolet. Buy into it.